Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Watchbox Reviews. I promise to update daily, and I'd really appreciate it. If you like this watch, you can purchase it. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches on thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a king. Back in 2009, Jaeger-Lecoultre of La Sentier, Switzerland debuted the Master Grande Tradition series, essentially a flagship line that grouped all of their most desirable complications under a single banner. The model you see here was part of the Plank Owner series. This is the Master Grande Tradition Tourbillon Perpetual calendar in PT950. That's right, it is platinum, with ruthenium-coated dial, stepped with a three-dimensional aperture for the tourbillon. This is a sensational combination of 42mm platinum case and a multi-complication. On my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the 42 wears big. I would say it's a little bit more like a 43 or a 44 in terms of wrist presence, but nominally it is a 42 from 9 to 3, not including the crown. It's not quite as thick as it looks, 14 millimeters with a generously sloped domed style bezel. It'll have no difficulty sliding underneath a jacket cuff, if not the tightest of dress sleeves beneath. You will find that it's fairly broad across the wrist at 50.8 millimeters, but there is a little bit of a downward curvature to those rather stubby lugs, so it will work with the smaller wrist. I believe you could wear this watch securely on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters in circumference. And you will know it is on your wrist regardless of size because the sheer heft of the platinum is awe-inspiring. The strap is nicely made and substantial. Many of these flagship pieces feature straps that both look and feel better than the equivalents on less costly JLC models. Calfskin on the underside. You can see it features a slim sheer cut sides. You can see the layers of the strap, a monotone stitch. It's black, medium rectangular scale, semi-gloss finish alligator leather. And you can see that it features a full precious metal deployant, but take note, after 2005, all JLC Platinum watches that feature a deployant feature a white gold deployant because they went to a double folding deployant in 2006. The smaller swing arms create stress risers structurally that JLC didn't feel comfortable rendering in platinum, which is why you get a gray gold that is homogeneous white gold alloy, 18 karat double folding clasp for security. I wouldn't trade a full platinum pin buckle for this white gold unit. I like the security of having a full deployant on a watch this heavy and this expensive. Let's get a little bit closer, give ourselves sharp focus, and crank up the light. Okay, now you can see to good effect the features of this case. It's simple. The sophistication is all in the dial and the movement here. The case has polished bevel, polished lug tops. You can see there's a little bit of a bevel down the transitional surface of the lug from the top to the side. And of course there's a linear satin striation that runs the full length of the case. You will note that there is a satin finish between the lugs as well. And the timepiece features a glorious ruthenium coated dial. So there are two different finishes on the dial. There's a matte metallic on the top portion, and then you'll note there's a step down to the tourbillon carriage, and what appears to be a plate underneath the dial is itself part of the movement. This entire lower dial component is part of the movement itself, running underneath the dial, which properly speaking is really just the upper 2/3 of the dial face. So you're looking at the movement in more ways than one at the base with a gorgeous sort of diamond plate or pyramide. And you can see the execution, beautifully diamond faceted. It has a mechanical fascination all of its own, but the star is the tourbillon. And the advantage of having that step in the dial, I'm going to try to get as close as I can here, guys, but the advantage to having that step in the dial is that you really can see laterally and diagonally down into the tourbillon. This is the best way to appreciate the full tourbillon escapement, the hairspring, the carriage itself. You get a wonderful 180-degree view of that for which you have paid. Now you'll see that there is a continuously rounded and black polished full bridge for the tourbillon. The center of the bridge is also black polished, and the tri-spoke of the titanium tourbillon cage itself is hand finished and executed in titanium. Blued screws that you see on the dial, as well as the case back, are executed the old-fashioned way. Kiln-fired oxidized blue, not chemically dyed. There is an overcoil on the tourbillon itself. The overcoil combining with the rotational action of the tourbillon to help even out the effect of gravity and ensure concentric beating in every position. Now you'll note the top of the dial has plenty to say, not to be upstaged, by its down-stepped complication counterpart, you can see there is a very comprehensive perpetual calendar. Now, it's the Kurt Claus system from IWC. JLC's innovation is to remove the adjuster system for the perpetual from the crown, so you can't accidentally set it forward. It moves in one direction only, forward, so a pusher adjuster on the flank allows adjustment of this sequential and programmed calendar system. What is a programmed calendar system? Well, it means that if you start stepping the date forward, the day changes. You'll see that the month gradually changes. So too does the moon phase, which you might have missed is actually in a concentric display with the day. There's also a moon phase. And then there is a year, a decade, a century, and a millennium, and all of this moves in sequence. So all you need to do is use this stepper on the case flank with the pusher tool to set the correct date for the month that you're in, and everything else moves in sync. You never have to look up the moon phase, you never have to look up the day of the week, and it's wonderfully convenient because you put this watch on your wrist, wear it every day, it will wind itself, it will keep good time by virtue of that tourbillon and overcoil, and it will maintain a current calendar display until the year 2100. There's even an AM/PM aperture with a beautiful little stepped, faceted, crescent-style display, almost coaxial with the hands. Just above the hands, and you can see the hands have even been slightly skeletonized at center so they don't block the danger zone indicator. That'll let you know when it's night. For example, the time when you should not be setting the calendar using that pusher adjuster. Now, we've seen the front, and I have to admit most of the action is on the dial side of this watch. Let's turn it over for a moment. You can see a gorgeous pyramid cut with traditional rose lathe guilloche into the 22 karat gold winding mass. Today you're seeing a lot of watches that use 21 karat, 18 karat, gold, or even tungsten carbide for the winding mass. JLC gives you 22 carats, which is the old school standard. You'll also note that there is a Côte de Soleil radiating out from the bridge for the tourbillon, and the Côte de Soleil, beautifully double crested. As you can see, it's not a conventional Geneva wave, it's double crested, a little bit like what you'll see on David Candot or Grunefeld. And I should also mention there's perlage across the base plate, more of those beautifully blued screws. Ceramic rotor bearings at center, unidirectional winding with ceramic rotor bearings ensuring very efficient winding, and a 48-hour power reserve. Now you can properly appreciate the tourbillon when you hold it up against a light base from the backside, and you'll be impressed to note that this watch, though clearly a dress complication, is nevertheless water resistant to 50 meters. Jaeger-Lecoultre leaving no stone unturned. The back of the watch has a beauty to it that perhaps the front lacks in terms of its coloration. Whereas the front is distinctly grayscale, the case back features the violet of the pivot jewels, the blue of the screws, the silver of the bridges, and the golden wheels and winding mass. Whichever side you prefer, you can see and buy both of them on the watch box.